With a blistering 180 base speed, Deoxys-Speed is the second fastest Pokemon to ever exist, beaten only by Regieleki, who was banned from Gen 9 for Terra Shard abuse. Deoxys said, quote, "The problem of being faster than light is that you can only live in darkness." But is Deoxys really alone at the top? After all, there's more to speed than just raw stats. Abilities, items, and boosting moves work together to accelerate already speedy Pokemon to the brink of infinity. If we want to find out who is really the fastest in OU, we're going to need to lay out some ground rules. First, candidates must be ranked B- or higher in OU. There are lots of low-tier Pokemon that can go really, really fast, but can't do anything with the speed. We're interested in the Pokemon that can use their speed to win at the highest level. Now, I'm only going to be talking about singles because I don't play doubles and I don't really know how doubles works. I think doubles would be really complex because you'd be able to target your allies with moves. I'm sure that there's a huge number of interesting strategies. I mean, Regieleki is legal, which is going to make answering the title of the video pretty easy. You can just say Regieleki can outspeed Deoxys-Speed. But we're not talking doubles because I don't know about doubles. Next, we're going to allow candidates one turn of setup. So any Pokemon with a move that boosts speed can get to +6 eventually. But that almost never happens in a real game. So we're going to restrict our Pokemon to one move. They can click a speed boosting move, and that's it. With one notable exception, which is Protect on Blaziken. Although you can punish it, usually Protect is going to allow Blaziken to activate speed boost multiple times. So we'll say that if Blaziken's protecting, that doesn't count as its turn of setup. Next, candidates may utilize effects set by allies, but not by enemies. So if we have a Pokemon that can use weather or terrain to boost its speed, it's allowed to do that. I'm not going to be considering Tailwind, but that's only because it would affect every Pokemon equally, so there's not much point. If you want, you can imagine that Tailwind's in play, and actually all of the numbers I give you are doubled. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of the video, because every Pokemon can benefit from Tailwind, and it's the same for everybody. What we're not allowed to do is say, oh, I send in my Weak Armor Skarmory into my opponent's Population Bomb, and my Skarmory instantly goes to +6. That's not allowed, because if your opponent doesn't click Population Bomb with their mouse hold, then your strategy's dead on arrival. Same for things like, if you have a contrary Pokemon and your opponents put up Sticky Web, that would give you speed. Or, if they click String Shot, that would give you speed. But that relies on your opponent having a specific move and using it, and so we're not allowed to do that. Number 4, our strategy must not rely on RNG. This is most important for Blunder Policy. Blunder Policy gives you a 2x speed boost if you miss an attack, which sounds pretty good. It would be allowed, I suppose, if a Pokemon had like a 0 accuracy move, but as far as I'm aware, there isn't a way in the game to always reliably activate Blunder Policy. If you think I've missed something, then please let me know in the comments. And finally, we're just looking at the speed stat. So priority moves and Trick Room are beyond the scope of the video. They will certainly let a Pokemon move before Deoxys-Speed, but not because their speed stat is higher, just because they're in a different priority bracket, or because Trick Room's in play and speed stats are reversed. Those are the rules. Let's have a look at the contenders. When you load Deoxys-Speed into the Pokemon Showdown Team Builder, it will have 396 speed. Now you can lower that if you want by giving it a negative nature or reducing its IVs, but in general you're going to be working from 396 and above. And the maximum possible speed with a positive nature and max EV investment is 504. So that's the number to beat. But amazingly, the first question we have to ask is there anything that can outspeed a totally uninvested Deoxys-Speed? Deoxys-Speed is so fast that even outspeeding it when it's putting in absolutely no effort is actually pretty hard. Dragonite, Blaziken, and Venusaur have 80 base speed. I'm not going to consider anything lower than that for this video because it's just too slow. It's never going to catch up to Deoxys-Speed. Even 80 base speed is pushing it, but all 3 of these Pokemon have ways to boost their speed significantly. Then we can move up through some metagame staples like Golden Go and Great Tusk, and you can see we're way off. We're still almost 100 points below that 396 magic number. But we can get faster. We can come into the Paradox Pokemon like Iron Treads and Walking Wake and Iron Moth and Iron Valiant. And then we can get to some Pokemon that are, I think, genuinely considered fast, right? Greninja, Darkrai, Weavile. These Pokemon have 120 plus speed, but they're still not making it to that 396 number. So if you have a Darkrai and you've maxed it out, and you're going to click Dark Pulse into that Deoxys-Speed because you know that it's like maximally bulk invested, well, too bad, because it's still faster than you, and Superpower is going to ruin your life. Which leaves 3 Pokemon that can do it. We have Barraskewda, Zamazenta, and Dragapult. Now, Dragapult is the second fastest Pokemon in the tier, with 142 base speed, but that's 38 less than Deoxys. Barraskewda, Zamazenta, and Dragapult are keeping pace with Deoxys, if you grant them a bit of leniency. But we don't have to grant them leniency. Deoxys-Speed can invest in speed too, and then it is way faster. So if these Pokemon want to actually compete, they're going to have to start boosting up. Now let's have a look at the different ways these Pokemon can gain +1 speed. Choice Scarf is an amazing option to start with because anything can use it. It's a held item, takes an item slot, but that's all. The only exceptions are the Ogerpon forms, which have to hold their masks. But aside from those, anything can use Choice Scarf and get a 1.5 times boost. Goldengo and Landorus both quite enjoy a Choice Scarf. It's a common item on both of these Pokemon, but amazingly, it's not enough. Choice Scarf Goldengo and Choice Scarf Lando T can't outspeed Deoxys. Deoxys is too fast. Now Goldengo doesn't mind this too much because it's a pretty safe switch into Deoxys, resists Psycho Boost, immune to Superpower. Yeah, they can knock you off, but you force it out with Shadow Ball, so that's all good. But Lando hates this because Lando would like to be able to come into Deoxys-Speed and U-turn on it. That sounds great, except Deoxys-Speed is so fast that it can click Ice Beam before Lando can U-turn, even if Lando has a Choice Scarf. So bear that in mind, Landorus users. Deoxys-Speed, it turns out, has a lot of speed. But there are also Choice Scarf users that are fast enough. Enamorus likes a Choice Scarf, and it just barely squeaks by. With a 9-point difference, 504 to 513, Enamorus can outspeed Deoxys-Speed if it's Timid Max. And then Darkrai and Weavile can do it no problem at all. Darkrai likes a Choice Scarf, just spam Dark Pulse, and that will clean Deoxys' clock. So, okay, it looks like... So it is possible, then, to outspeed Deoxys-Speed, but let's have a look at some of our other options. There are lots of moves that you can use to boost your speed. So Dragonite likes to click Dragon Dance. Great Tusk often ends up at +1 because it uses Rapid Spin, which gives speed in Gen 9. You see Trailblaze on the Ogerpon sometimes. You see Battle Bond boosted Greninja sometimes. There's lots of ways to get to +1 without a Choice Scarf. And then, finally, we have the booster energies. Unfortunately, though, we're here to apply the rules equally to all Pokemon, and Deoxys-Speed still has an item slot. Now, I wouldn't call Choice Scarf Deoxys-Speed meta. In fact, in April, a mere 0.39% of Deoxys-Speeds held a Choice Scarf. That's about 1 in every 250. However, the rules are the rules, and it looks like our competitors are going to have to match not 396, not 504, but 756 speed if they want to dethrone Deoxys-Speed as the fastest in the metagame. And to do that, they're going to need more boosts. Now, we've looked at ways to get +1 speed in a turn, but can you get +2? The answer is yes, and the easiest way is with the move Agility. For now, we're just going to look at Pokemon that actually ever use Agility. There are some Pokemon here that learn it but never run it. The ones that do sometimes use it are Enamorus, Walking Wake, Iron Moth, and Latias. But it doesn't help them. Even if your Walking Wake is +2, even if your Iron Moth is +2, Choice Scarf Deoxys-Speed is still faster. There are other ways to get +2 speed though. For example, Unburden, which is Hawlucha's ability, doubles its speed when its held item is consumed. Now there are lots of ways to consume a held item. The easiest way is Terrain, and per the rules, setting Terrain in advance is allowed. So, we can easily say that Hawlucha with like a Grassy Seed can double its speed to 736, but it's still not fast enough, which is quite a good tech, really. If you're struggling against, I guess, Terrain Hawlucha, then you can run Scarf Deoxys-Speed, and even after it procs Unburden, it'll still just die to a Psycho Boost. So, if you're being terrorized by the Luchador, Scarf Deoxys-Speed is your niche tech. The other option for doubling speed is Weather. Venusaur can boost up to +2 with Chlorophyll, but it's not getting anywhere close to the 756 mark. Excadrill can boost up with Sandrush, but not getting anywhere close either. However, Barraskewda clears the mark completely. A Swift Swim Barraskewda in the rain will outspeed a Choice Scarf Deoxys-Speed, and I mean, there you go. Barraskewda has done it. Congratulations, Barraskewda, you have outsped Deoxys-Speed. And Barraskewda is actually not the only one, and it's because of the way speed multiplies. Moves like agility that directly boost your speed stack additively. For every additional stage of speed, for every stage of speed that you go up, you add half of your speed stat to your speed stat. If you have 500 speed, you will go up to 750, and then 1000, and then 1250, and then 1500. However, if you have speed boosts from other sources, such as booster energy or choice scarf, these boosts multiply. So if we look at Great Tusk, which has an unboosted speed stat of 300. If it were to, we would expect at +2 for it to have 600 speed. However, the multiplier from booster energy is not applying to the base 300, it's applying to the boosted 450, increasing the speed stat to a total of 675, which makes it effectively a 2.25 times modifier to the speed stat. Now this doesn't help Great Tusk get over the line. Great Tusk is still too slow. However, it does help Iron Treads just barely squeeze by if Iron Treads has a booster energy and has used Rapid Spin to get +1 speed, which is a common occurrence, right? Booster energy, Iron Treads is pretty common, and it likes to run Rapid Spin, so it's not unusual to see a 769 speed Iron Treads, but it is impressive that that Iron Treads can outspeed a Choice Scarf Deoxys. Now there's one more candidate to talk about, but it's a bit of a grey area. The candidate is Blaziken. Blaziken's speed boost ability gives it +1 speed every turn it's on the field. What that means is that if we spam Protect and maybe Substitute, we can just rack up speed boosts until we have +6 speed. Now that's kind of antithetical to the spirit of the rule that says you only get one turn to set up. I think that the fact that Blaziken does it passively for free is kind of important. So I'll leave it up to you to decide whether you think Blaziken should be eligible, but if you were to bring Blaziken in, get a speed boost, click Protect, get a speed boost, click your 1 turn of setup move, get a speed boost, and then on the 4th turn click Protect to get +4, you would make it to 852 speed and be the fastest thing on the board. Now, that technically still only uses 1 turn of setup, right? Because we brought it in, that was just a switch, didn't have to use a move, and then on turn 2 and 4 we used Protect, so we only used 1 turn of setup, even though we were on the field for 4 turns. I don't know. It's definitely a legal grey area, and I am not a Pokemon lawyer. So if you have encountered this in a battle and you're running into legal trouble, I would recommend contacting a solicitor rather than taking advice from me, a random person, on the internet. Just a brief aside, when I was making this video, I found this post to be very, very helpful. Linked in the description, it's a Smogon post which details all of the possible speed tiers that you might see in the tier and how they come up, and lays them out in a really nice way. However, I'm 97% sure that there's a mistake, so if any of you have an uncle, or perhaps a distant relative who works at Smogon, the Smogon factories, I would like to direct their attention through you as the proxy to this here, where it says that after 3 boosts, Blaziken and Dragonite hit 852 speed. However, I don't think that's true. I think that at ×3 speed, Blaziken and Dragonite hit 852 speed, but ×3 speed requires 4 boosts. If we refer back to the handy chart, 3 boosts should be only 710, which would move them down here just below Poltegeist. I think it is relevant because it means that Swiftswim Barraskewda outspeeds a +3 Blaziken, and if you were referring to this chart and you were wondering whether it was safe to click Close Combat with your Blaziken against a Barraskewda, and you're +3, it could cost you dearly. So, no shade on the post. I mean, the post is amazing, and it was incredibly helpful, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, but I think I've figured out an error on the post. So I don't know, if you know someone at Smogon, get this fixed. The lives of millions of helpless Blaziken and Dragonite depend on it. Thank you. And so we have our top 3 fastest Pokemon plausible in OU: Iron Treads, Barraskewda, and Blaziken. And Deoxys-Speed is crying over in the corner, taking 4th, just barely missing out on the middle. But this isn't the end of the story. There are ways to make our Pokemon go even faster, if we're willing to sacrifice things like being any good in the meta, or being a coherent set. If our only goal is speed, then I think we can crank up a few more dials. Remember earlier when I said that some Pokemon can learn agility, but I wasn't going to consider it because nobody ever runs agility on them? Well, it turns out that one of those Pokemon was Deoxys-Speed. Why would anybody want to waste a turn boosting the speed of the fastest Pokemon in the tier? I have no idea, but it's possible, and in theory, if you get that agility off, you can start to spam incredibly fast Psycho Boosts. The question for us is, can any of our other contenders compete with a 4-digit speed stat? They're going to have to do it by stacking multipliers. So the best place to start is looking at the Pokemon that learn agility. These are our base speed runner-ups, our booster energy paradox Pokemon, and Hawlucha and Barraskewda. Dragapult and Zamazenta haven't had much to do so far because they don't typically run speed boosting moves. But even when they do, as you can see, it's not enough to get them across the line. Any Pokemon that's merely doubling its speed isn't going to be able to compete with Deoxys. But with a 1.5 times multiplier from booster energy and a 2 times multiplier from agility, Iron Valiant, Iron Moth, and Walking Wake have their speed stats effectively tripled, which is enough to outspeed Deoxys-Speed. If you're worried about losing to Agility Deoxys-Speed, all you have to do is run Booster Speed, Agility, Iron Valiant with Knockoff. It's a genius set that will really surprise new players at 1000 elo. Now, before we look at the last two, let's have a look at Blaziken. There is a world where Blaziken can reach +6. Either you alternate between Protect and Substitute, or just click Protect a whole bunch and get lucky, and you get the double, triple Protect. The Substitute play isn't guaranteed, though, because it's got counterplay. If opponent has priority moves, if they've got Taunt, if they've got moves that bypass Substitute, and the Protect play is disqualified because of the RNG ruling. Our strategies have to be consistent, and Protect has a chance to fail if you use it more than once in a row. So we're not going to allow Blaziken to progress. But to sate our curiosity, it does pass the line at +6. It is faster than all of the Agility plus Booster Energy Paradox Pokemon. It's pretty quick, but it's not as quick as Hawlucha. Now this plot's actually underselling Hawlucha's speed, because I've had to put a line break in to fit everybody on screen. I've skipped 1200 and 1300 speed and gone straight to 1400. Hawlucha's line in a fair graph would actually be at the very edge of the screen, but it would still be much shorter than Barraskewda's line, which, if you really want to, you can send in with Rain Up and click Agility, and you'll get a 4 times multiplier, doubled from the Agility and then doubled again from the Swift Swim, and go to 1632 speed, which leaves Deoxys-Speed in the dust. The difference between the fastest Barraskewda and the fastest Deoxys is greater than Deoxys' speed stat. Deoxys has 504 speed. The difference here is 624. Barraskewda is amazingly fast. Now you might say, hang on, aren't we doing Deoxys-Speed dirty? Couldn't we use Agility while holding a Choice Scarf to make our speed even faster? And the answer is yes, technically, but you will be stuck clicking Agility until you start struggling, and we have to draw the line somewhere, and it has to be before clicking a useless move until you die. So I'm writing that one off, and Deoxys-Speed doesn't really have any other way to boost its speed up above +2, so 1008 is the true maximum that we're going to be looking at. So is that it? Barraskewda is the fastest Pokemon, then Hawlucha, then the Booster Energy Pokemon, and then Deoxys-Speed? Well, not quite. There are a few improvements that we can make. You see, we've been activating Photosynthesis and Quark Drive using a Booster Energy. But there's another way. After all, it says explicitly in the rules that we may utilize effects set by allies. And Pokemon like Iron Valiant and Iron Moth can activate photosynthesis simply by being on electric terrain, which we're allowed to do. So we can give them a different held item. In fact, we can give them a Choice Scarf. Now, currently, our Paradox Pokemon are sitting at a 3 times multiplier, but we can get that slightly higher. There are a few conditions, though. They have to be in their respective weather or terrain, but that's allowed. They have to be holding a Choice Scarf, but that's allowed. And they have to be different from Deoxys in that they have an attack they can use that's going to boost their speed, but not just lock them into agility and be useless. And thankfully, there is one of these Pokemon that meets all 3 criteria. That is Flame Charge Iron Moth. Our speed goes from 1044 to 1181, which is an effective multiplier of 3.37 times speed, which is pretty nice for the low cost of being an Iron Moth locked into Flame Charge. You know, it's not that much worse than being Agility Barraskewda or Agility Unburdened Hawlucha. You can actually do a similar thing with Ogerpon Teal Mask. So now I put the challenge to you. Have I missed anything? Have I missed any possibilities? Are there Pokemon I haven't even included on the slide that can somehow boost their speed to unimaginable heights? If you can see any other interesting strategies or tactics within the confines of the rules I set, then let me know down in the comments below. Also, if I've made any mathematical errors, which I want to do, let me know in the comments down below, because everybody who told me that I didn't know what a factorial was in the Pikachu video haven't given me a complex about factorials, nothing like that, and also were great for my engagement. In conclusion, the 3 Pokemon that I vote most likely to outspeed Deoxys-Speed are Iron Moth, Hawlucha, and Barraskewda. Now, it may not seem like it, but this video is actually part of my How to Use series, where we talk about how to use Pokemon. So let's talk about how to actually use Deoxys-Speed. It has terrible HP, amazing speed, and mid everything else. It's always running pressure, that's the only ability, and it kind of has 2 flavors. There's the offensive flavor, where you run damaging moves, almost always Psycho Boost and Superpower, and then one of its many coverage moves. Or you can run a lead set, often with Focus Sash or Red Card or Rocky Helmet. It really likes Terra Fighting as a Terra type because it hates Sucker Punch so much, and Terra Fighting gives it a dark resistance, and because it likes to use Superpower. Superpower and Psycho Boost have this nice synergy where they are both really strong moves that debuff themselves, but because they're using different attacking stats, you can click Psycho Boost and still have strong superpowers, and vice versa. And with Terra Fighting, not only do you get the defensive benefits, but you also get the Terra Boost to your superpowers. So, very nice Terra type. You can also run Psychic. You could say it's a kind of Psycho Boost. And Terra Ghost can work to stop rapid spin leads like Glamora from removing the hazards that you set. Deoxys is really good into the ground types of the tier, so Gliscor and Lando and Great Tusk, because Ice Beam does amazing damage to them and Psycho Boost hits them pretty hard. It's also good against poison types like Pitcharunt and Galarian Weezing. Anything that resists both Psychic and Fighting will beat Deoxys-Speed. Those are the only 2 resistances of the Psychic type, so if you've got a Psychic type Pokemon, you can usually switch that into a Deoxys-Speed, and the worst thing it's going to be able to do is chip you and knock off your item. Golden Go is also really annoying. It's immune to Superpower, resists Psycho Boost, and can hit you back with Shadow Balls that will definitely OHKO Deoxys. Deoxys has a very colourful move pool. I discounted priority for the speed tier discussion, but you can run extreme speed on your Deoxys-Speed. So if you're getting sick of these agility Barraskewdas and these agility unburden Hawluchas, you can run extreme speed Deoxys-Speed to really, really crush their morale and their chance of winning. And you'll probably win that battle, because as niche and weird as extreme speed Deoxys-Speed is, I think it's a lot better than agility Barraskewda. You can do weird things with Meteor Beam and Power Herb. You've got coverage if you want to tech to defeat a particular opponent. And yeah, you got Trick, so Choice Scarf plus Trick for the real heat technology. As I say, there are 2 flavors. The first is the Hazard Lead. You're running Psycho Boost, Superpower, and then 2 moves of your choice. Stealth Rock and Taunt are great. You can also run Spikes, you can run Thunder Wave, you can run Light Screen and Reflect. There's a lot of options. And your goal is to live fast, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. Make your progress moves, stop your opponent from doing that with Taunt, and then so that you get tempo, you get initiative in the battle. Your opponent's a Pokemon up, but they're at a disadvantage that they're going to have to claw back from. It's kind of like playing chess and doing an early gambit, sacrificing a piece for tempo and to cause a problem for your opponent. The other set is the offensive set, and this usually wants to come in at the end of the game, exactly opposite to the lead set. Once you've dealt with the things that it struggles with, it's not the strongest Pokemon in the world. It's only got 95 in its offensive stats. So if you want it to sweep through the enemy team, you probably need to wear them down a bit first. Let them take hazard damage, let them take chip, and then at the end, you can clean up with your fastest thing. The biggest problem, I think, for this guy is Kingambit, because Kingambit also wants to hang around till the end game, and although it dies to Superpower, it likes to Terra, so it's not weak to Superpower anymore, and Sucker Punch is going to ruin Deoxys' whole career. But this is still a pretty threatening set. The coverage is amazing with Ice Beam. You hit pretty much all of the metagame neutrally, and you probably won't ever be completely unhappy to have a Deoxys-Speed around at the end. Deoxys-Speed can slot into quite a wide range of teams. If you're running the lead variety, you're probably playing hyper offense or screens, whereas the offensive variety can be played on a range of offensive and balance. structures. Its favourite teammate is Golden Go. Golden Go is really good at facilitating these hyper-offense structures because it prevents the opponent from removing the hazards that Deoxys sets. And then other good teammates include Booster Energy, Pokemon like Iron Moth, Great Tusk, and Iron Valiant, and these Pokemon that can set up and use strong priority moves like Kingambit and Dragonite. Ribombee is a terrible teammate for Deoxys because Ribombee's goal is to set Sticky Web up, and Deoxys doesn't really need Sticky Web. Like, it's already faster than everything. Do you really need to slow down the opponent? I don't think so, unless, Agility, Swift Swim, Barrascuda is living rent-free in your mind. Deoxys is also pretty bad on stall teams and slow bulky teams because Deoxys really relies on getting tempo, getting initiative, and if your opponent isn't pressured enough, then in the long run they'll come out on top. Still, a pretty versatile Pokemon, worthy of an A- ranking. Thank you all for watching. I would like to give a shout out to my amazing channel members who've joined the membership program: Sycamore, My Lovely Caitlin, and Dragon Slayer Man. Now, you'll notice that I've done some nepotism and put myself on my own channel member page, and that's because Sawaddle's mine. You guys got to get your own bug. I want Sawaddle. So anyway, thank you to everybody, including me, I guess. I saw Sycamore and I was like, that's a cultured individual. I had a D&D character once called Sycamore who was what were they? They were a divination wizard, and their whole thing was they wanted to be able to predict the future, but all of the divination spells that wizards can learn are a bit useless. So they were kind of like, I want to divine things, but there's no good divination spells. I don't know, it was a bit of a meme, but highly respectable name. The sample sets and team are in the description alongside a lot of the resources I used to make this video. If you can think of any creative sets that meet all the criteria and would also be very, very fast, let me know in the comments because it's really, really interesting and I do appreciate it. Okay, see you guys all in the next one.